Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Bork Game video. Today's video is dedicated to Overkill and how to get an extra 90 seconds to deal more damage in clan battle. Let's go over some rules in order to see how this stuff works. Alright, so if you go into the help section right here, and then you go into clan battle right there, that's a drop down, and then you're going to go into simultaneous attempts. You're going to see multiple simultaneous battles, and then you're going to see Overkill. Alright, Overkill is what happens when you have two people that go in at the same time but do not kill the boss, but they deal so much damage they end up killing the boss afterwards. Alright, it's a little confusing. It's not the same thing as someone last hitting a boss or defeating a boss. Alright, that is a very key part here. Is on Overkill, you do not kill the boss technically on either run. All right, so let's go ahead and go over the details. All right, so you can see here we're on Discord, we're chatting. Now the reason why we're chatting is because we need to be in sync when tackling this boss. Note here the boss has roughly 360k plus HP. Now, the purpose of doing an overkill, like we talked about before, is we do not kill the boss. But the most important part as well is having two people enter the boss at the same time. Now, there are very key important things that we'll talk about at the end, but right now we have to deal enough damage so that we are close enough to killing the boss. Now, I'm going to deal roughly 327k damage. We have pre-recorded this in the sense of like, hey, how much damage you can deal. That's the most important part. How much damage can each person deal? Ideally, each person can deal the same amount of damage. That way you can get the most bang for your buck when you're doing an overkill, right? You don't want someone who's dealing 600k damage and someone who's dealing 200k damage. You want two people who can deal 600k. That way you can maximize the amount of damage you're dealing to the boss, right? So now I'm like, hey, have you paused yet? Because if I don't pause and he is still like going to the boss and he is like technically like, oh, like I'm still going at it, there's not enough time left, blah blah blah, we need to be in sync at the end, both at the 2-second mark, and whoever deals less damage will unpause. All right, so now I'm verifying, hey, are you at the 2-second mark? And if he deals less damage than me, then he will unpause first. So for example, he dealt like 300-ish k, right? And I dealt 327k. So he will unpause and go after he got to the 2-second mark. But now we just have to wait so we can get all the timings right. All right, this is the most important part. The most crucial part is getting to that 2-second mark. Now we have known like what each other's damage is, and now he will unpause and kill the boss. And as soon as he kills the boss, then I will unpause. You see there like how fast that was? This is so that the server can sync, knowing that we didn't kill the boss, but we were so close in timing. I technically killed it, right? But you can see here on the battle tracker, I got overkill. Now, the reason why I got overkill in 1 minute and 30 seconds is because I dealt very close damage to the boss's remaining HP, technically on my screen. This does not work if you are not within a 2 to 10 second margin. I'm communicating, and now I'm going to use this run. You can see here that there are two damages that are over 330 or 320k, all right? Now, technically, he dealt more damage there. I'm not sure if you caught it. But the reason why I unpaused afterwards is because I'm the one who wanted to like make this happen and showcase it. In the future, I should have technically let him go because he technically had a better team since he dealt more damage, right? So now I have that carryover time, an extra 90 seconds. I have to use the same exact team. You saw me, I tried to like change the team earlier. And now we get more damage, we get more runs. All right, this is technically not a run, this is technically carryover time. All right, and the carryover time can vary based off of how much damage you dealt. So for example, if there's two people who dealt 500k damage and the boss had like 600k, then the carryover time would be different. It'd be like much less because technically you didn't deal 100k damage, but combined you deal like 1,000,000 damage, right? So that's the point here. When we do carryover or overkill, combined you deal more damage than the boss's remaining HP, but you don't kill the boss. All right, and you can see here this carryover time is very overpowered because what's happening here is Griffin is going to die. Now that is going to be a great thing because now everyone gets more damage. The clan battle's happy because we can rank higher. Overall, my team doesn't perform that well, but technically this is a free run and technically this is free damage. And at the end of the day, who doesn't like free damage on their clan battle? The reason why this is so much better to run an overkill is because normally you would have people who are weak last hit the boss and they get barely any like carryover time, right? But here you can see that I have 3 damages and I haven't even dealt my actual 3rd attempt. This is just an extra attempt that helps me deal an extra 400k for the day. So that's technically another person attacking. It's like you have an extra person attacking, and you can do this for every single boss, all right? I'll show a calculator on how to calculate the carryover time, but this is just something that I feel like everyone should know. All right, we're gonna go ahead and run this one more time just so you guys can see it, and we're using Discord, whichever chat app, all that stuff, right? Now, when it comes to this, we are in sync, and both of us know how much damage we can deal. That is the most important part when going into this thing. We know that the Griffin has 668,000 or 668,000 HP left, right? So the point being is we deal less damage than that. Our combined efforts will double that damage technically. So each of us will deal like 620k plus damage, but our combined efforts will deal 1.2 million, all right? The most important factor is we deal enough damage so that it is close to the boss's HP. Now, the reason why you technically don't want to deal less damage overall is because you won't get extra carryover time, right? The reason why this is important to us is because if we have very similar damage, then that means one of us will get the most amount of carryover time possible. In case one of our runs mess up, then technically, you know, if I dealt 500k because my team exploded for some god-awful reason, because that happens all the time, then he can recoup my losses if he deals like 620k, and he technically has a better hit than me. So you can see right here, we're pretty much waiting like, hey, you know, are you going to kill the boss? How much damage did you do? He's going to be dealing 654k, so I'm like, oh, all right, since you dealt more damage, I will unpause. You can see here I unpause. Now, this is probably the most nerve-wracking part, because on my screen I don't see anything. No one in like Princess Connect or in the clan knows what's going on except the other person who technically killed the boss. So now you're pretty much sitting here waiting. You're like, you know, hey, what's going on? Did you see anything? Do you have any screenshots? And we're just like, all right, this is where we pretty much just have to do the trust factor, right? And we're just waiting for screenshots to see whether we actually got the carryover time / overkill. So you're just like, oh, we killed the boss, we got some rewards, which was pretty nice. That's super cool. But note here at the very end, we do get the screenshot, and you can see he was able to get 1 minute and 28 seconds of overkill / carryover time, which is absolutely phenomenal, because that's just more damage in everyone's pockets for the overall clan, and everyone's going to be happy because the more damage you do, the higher you rank. Alright, so you can see here we are pretty much over in the battle log, and this is going to be the section that Mui and I pretty much dealt damage to and dealt the overkill. So you can see here we are both at the 5-hour mark. Alright, we were actually very close in timing because we are only seconds apart, and this is how the server technically was like, oh, this is an overkill, because both of them were technically seconds apart, and not to mention both of them dealt very similar. We don't have to technically deal similar damage, but the most important part is their combined efforts overkilling the boss and leading to carryover time. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about some personal logs. This personal logs will tell you how much damage that you have dealt for the day. So on March 9th right here through March 10th, you can see that I had 3 attempts with the Minotaur, dealt story damage, just because Enraged Minotaur is an absolute headache, especially on lap 2. And then here we are going to be seeing that I had 4. It looks like I had 4 attempts, but it's not 4 attempts. What's actually happening is this is my normal run on the Minotaur, and then this was the overkill time earlier where I dealt 327k, and then I used the same exact team with 90 seconds left to tackle Wild Griffin, and I got 423k bonus damage / overkill carryover time, which is absolutely beautiful because it increases my overall score for the day, and not to mention the clan reaps the benefits. All right, and note here that, you know, this was the last run I did with Mui, which was technically 624k, but he got that carryover time that we showed earlier. All right, so this is going to be an important feature that's not really perfectly explained within the game, because, you know, if you go into the help section, it doesn't really tell you what to do at all. It doesn't tell you like the rules for simultaneous attempts very clearly. You just know that you can do an overkill, and you just know that already defeated monsters, you can't get the carryover time, right? You get carryover time, but it's based off of, you know, how much remaining time, versus overkill, where you can maximize the amount of damage you deal for that day. All right, so let's go ahead and show the calculators. You can see it right here. So we talked about that 1 million HP earlier. All right, so you can see here someone dealt 900,000 damage and they got 86 seconds. All right, and what happens here is the 640,000 person, if they were to unpause, you know, right at the 2-second mark, they would only get 64 seconds. The reason why they only get 64 seconds is because they didn't deal enough damage to the boss. All right, it's better to have the person who deals more damage but does not kill the boss to technically get the overtime. All right, because you don't want the weaker person getting the overtime slash overkill and all that stuff, and it doesn't really work out. So let's go ahead and show that Griffin situation, where the Griffin, or Wyvern situation, where the Wyvern had technically 330,000k plus HP left. All right, and then I dealt 327k, right? And then my friend dealt 330, right? Well, the boss actually technically had like 360, so there is like room for error, so you can put it right here, 360, and both of us got 90 seconds of carryover time. So this is going to be where things are like, oh, since we are very similar, it doesn't matter who technically unpauses. You know, for demonstration purposes, I unpause so we can see how carryover time works on my screen, and then for the other one, we technically saw what happens for the other person if they technically got to carryover time. Obviously, this is a very overpowered method to increase your score within clan battle. I wish I could have shown it sooner, but this was something that I recently discovered, and we just sort of mastered it so I can properly explain it. Overall, it's a very hard concept to pretty much wrap your head around, but just keep practicing. I'll leave this calculator. I'll drop information in the description in case y'all are curious how this like overkill mechanic works. Just over time, it's something to master and something to be aware of. Please, 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 if you can master this, you can somehow get, you know, within like the top 50s, top 10s. Obviously, the top 10s are definitely doing this. If not, they are taking advantage of this situation. It's not really hidden like knowledge, but it's something where if you can do the overkill, it's going to benefit you greatly, so you can score within, you know, the top 10s, top 25s, and top 50s, right? All right, one more thing before we end today's video. I have to give a huge shout out to the folks who created this calculator. Zeroyue, he didn't create it, but he translated it, but to the CN community who pretty much got this information. You can see here there is going to be a few calculations up top, so in case y'all want to pretty much export this into another document, or you want to like download it or whatever you need to do, this is also going to be an editable link. So, you know, if there's 50 people editing it at the same time, just download it so that way you can, you know, have a way to actually utilize it properly. All right, I just want to thank the CN Community Zeroyue for translating this and making this human readable and letting me sort of understand it and break it down to the community. At the end of the day, information is key. Combined, you know, overkill, all this stuff. I know not everyone can do it, but it's something so cool that we can learn this as a community. That way we can have more overall fun, and this is why clan battle has to be one of my most favorite features ever implemented into a gacha game, because this thing is about as deep as you want it to go when it comes to like perfecting all of like the different like teams that you have, down to like the nitty gritty, to like sort of hidden details with, you know, all these like calculators and everything, right? But it's super cool that we got into this. Anyways, if you made it this far into this video, consider subscribing, dropping a like, leaving a comment. Once we get 17,500 subs, we doing that giveaway. Enter the giveaway. I love doing them just because it helps me give back to the community. I wouldn't be here without y'all. All right, note that 50% of you, or technically 60% of you, are not subscribed to the channel, so if you subscribe, that would warm my heart so much. All right, so follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.